in these problems, we're talking about the opposite of a number. And the opposite of a number is just the negative of that number. So the opposite of 3, this is a positive 3, the opposite of that is going to be negative 3. What happens when you start with a negative number? What's the opposite of that? Well, you could think of that as the negative of the negative 7. But negative means opposite, so the negative of a negative is going to be a positive. So a negative negative 7 is the same thing as a positive 7. That's the concept of opposites. This one says use the concept of opposites to simplify a negative negative 6. It doesn't matter that these parentheses are here, a negative and a negative. It's sort of like multiplying a negative times a negative. And when you do that, you get a positive. A negative negative 6 is a positive 6. You could also think of that as the opposite of a negative 6. All right, let's try one that's slightly trickier. This one says 5 miles north is 5. Which of the following statements is true? And then they give you all these statements about east, west, south, north. If you see north, and we're talking about opposites, you're going to be dealing with north and south. So the basic idea here is you've got some place in the middle that's neither north nor south, and north goes in this direction and south goes in this direction, and it's like a number line. So if you get up to 5, that's 5 north, which means that going the other direction would be the opposite. So this would be negative 5 if you went 5 south. So basically north is all the positive numbers, south is all the negative numbers. East and west, well, we're not dealing with those right now. If you get north, that means you're dealing with south. If you get east, that means you're dealing with west. We got north, so we're dealing with south. All right, so let's sort out which of these statements is true. They've got a couple of statements about the opposite of east or west, but that's not defined here. We're just dealing with north or south, so we can ignore those. And then it says the opposite of 14 miles south is 14. Okay, well, let's think about this. If we had 14 miles south, south is all the negative numbers, so 14 miles south would be negative 14. So basically this is saying the opposite of 14 miles south is 14. Well, 14 miles south is negative 14. So it's saying the opposite of negative 14 is 14. And that's right, because the opposite of a negative number is a positive number. So that is our answer. So that's a little bit of work with opposite numbers.